Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started for today's session. Thank you for joining the IDRPP Time to Act Mental Health Echo. If you will take a minute and rename your profile, and if you're comfortable turning on your camera, it always just helps us know who's on the call and so that we can see each other. We are recording today's session. It will be stored on our Canvas page. You can go back and watch that. I know if you're anything like me, it takes me a minute or two to digest all the information. So if you've never been to an echo, welcome to your first echo session. Please consider putting any comments or chat or raise your hand and we will get to you. We really want this to be an interactive community. It's a way that we can talk about situations and topics that, are near and dear to all of us. We do have a case narrative. So if you have a case that you're struggling with trying to figure out how to help support the client, the family, or the partner, please consider sending us in a case. We do talk about difficult situations in this echo, and sometimes we want to talk about the clients or families that we work with. Please remember to protect their individual privacy. So de-identify any of that information. If you have any questions about what to de-identify, please just reach out to one of our hub members. They all have an asterisk in front of their names, so they are easier to find in chat. I don't know why my slides are not moving when I hit the button. Key components of an echo session are always a speaker that shares some information with us. And then we have a case presenter. I love the case presentation because it is a great way to hear all of the amazing things that you guys on the call know about, and that we can then take that back and utilize that with the providers and colleagues that we work with. It doesn't always match up with the session of the day. It's sometimes just a participant has submitted a case and they really want to get information about it. Sometimes it does match up with the topic that we have. And then again, it's that amazing professional networking. So I know that I can reach out to somebody. If Kurt says something great on the call, that I can then know where to find him. So I can follow up on that, because all of us are doing amazing work with that. Again, if you'll take a minute and rename your profile so that I can call you out like I called Kurt out, just kidding, but so that I know where to reach Kurt at and be able to do any follow-up questions with it. We've all been on Zoom for a minute, so if you need to raise your hand or use that feature, here is where that is at, as well as pre-registering. So we do send out information. We have announcements that come out. So if you want to get any weekly announcements or any information, just email timetoact@aggies.usu.edu. In order to get a credit of attendance, we do ask that you complete our survey. And thank you all for always completing that survey. It is what we then share with our funders so that we are able to continue to utilize this program and project, as well as keeping the trainings free of charge. So we email a credit of attendance after that survey has been completed, and Shana will be dropping those in throughout today's session. We store everything on our Canvas page, so the recording, the PowerPoints, the case recommendations and resources that everybody shares. So if you ever want to go back and look at where those resources are, you can go to our Canvas page. To get access to that, please just email us and we will send you an invite for that. Case studies, again, are just that great way to hear and learn from everybody on this call and get information and ideas on how to work with some of those clients that we work with. I know I personally have done some of those case studies on families that I'm working with that I'm just stumped on. And I love hearing all of your guys' amazing ideas and recommendations and supports that I can then pass that on to my families. We do have a social media, so if you've not followed us, take a minute to do so. I'm thrilled today to introduce Michelle and Sarah. They are part of the Utah Internet Crime Task Force. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn the time over to them.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle. I'm with the Utah Attorney General's Office with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I'm the training coordinator and education specialist here, and I have been here 10 years doing the same thing I've done the whole time. And this is Sarah.
Yes, so my name is Sarah Lundquist. I'm a police officer and I'm a member of the task force. I've been a police officer for 14 years now. I've been participating in ICAC investigations for 8 of those years.
So we're going to share our screen, and then we're going to, if you have questions, we had talked to Janelle about this, just put them in the chat, and then we'll do that after, just so we can make sure we get through all of the material.
There we go. Everybody can see that. Okay.
Yes.
We need control of the thing, is it not? Just you. Okay. Okay, so with the task force, it's actually a nationwide task force. We just have a mission to protect kids. That's our goal. We want to do with the best we can to fight for them, to rescue those kids that we find in homes that are being hurt, and to try to educate the public as well, like we're doing right now today, and ask for everyone's help in the community, and just to empower these kids. They're absolute survivors, and we want to do everything we can to make sure they succeed. So our goal is to, like we do, aggressively investigate the cases we can and prosecute, and we have a very high success rate with our cases because they're so solid. And we provide a lot of training and a lot of equipment to people, to agencies across the state to help us with all of this. So the task force in Utah was created in 2000, so we're 24 years old. We are actually made up of full-time agents here at the AG's office, and then we have affiliate agencies throughout the state, and we're continuing to grow those agencies as we see the need for them in their area of the state. Right now we have 83 different agencies affiliated with us, and that includes local, county, fed, state agencies, 200 plus officers all over. The more the internet spreads throughout the state, the more we find that we need bodies out there to help us investigate cases. So the task force, we're not like a police department where we're first responders. We have very specific cases that we investigate. They can be proactive or reactive. Proactive meaning we are going out and seeking out the bad guys, and usually undercover capacities. Reactive is those cases we receive and then that we work. So dealing harmful materials to a minor, that statute is essentially sending inappropriate pictures to a child, to a minor. It's just that simple. Somebody sends one of those pictures we all know about and a child gets it, that's a crime. We work the online enticement cases. If you're familiar with the undercover chatting, or shows that used to be about that. We do that, and we do it the right way. That can also include dealing harmful materials to a minor when we're doing these enticements. But what it essentially is adults chatting online with a child or a minor in order to meet up with them to have some sort of sexual contact. Sexual exploitation of a minor is probably the main statute we investigate. It's has to do with child sexual abuse material, and hopefully in your guys' fields, you've started, if it comes up in any kind of topics with what you guys have to deal with, that's used to be known as child pornography. And that is, child pornography is not an appropriate name for it. It's not what it is. It's not pornography. It's abuse, and it's a crime being recorded. So that's what it's called now. We call it CSAM for short. So manufacturing, if somebody is actively abusing a child and then they're recording it in some way, that's where the manufacturing comes in. And then distribution and possessions, just like it sounds. So sexual extortion is a new budding crime that's just exploded over the last few years. And we'll talk more about that later, but essentially there's two types. You can be extorted for more images or videos of yourself, or for money. And what they're doing is, when pictures, somebody online talks you into sending some sort of inappropriate video or image, and then they use that against you to try to get more things from you. So, and again, prosecution, partnership, prevention, that's what we're trying to do throughout our work.
So when we talk about this, let's look at online access. So I want you guys to look at all of these things up here. One in particular I want to kind of point out is gaming devices. That's a huge, we get a lot of cyber tips. We'll explain later what those are, but we get a lot of cyber tips related to gaming, online gaming. And I also want you to understand that it's not just the older games. A lot of people think it's just older, like high school kids are playing them. It's not. It's also the younger games. Roblox is a big problem. We've had a lot of cyber tips with Roblox. So just keep that in mind with your kids, with any kids you're working with. Whatever the predator's preferences for age is where they're going to be. So whether it's an older game and their preference is tweens and teens, or younger, places like Roblox, we've seen them on Club Penguin, things like that. So just keep that in mind, that online gaming it's a big issue. Another thing with online gaming is the cameras, because they can get into, when they get into these chat rooms, they have their cameras on, they can actually see right into that child's home and the full child. So making sure that if we are playing online gaming, not letting kids go into these chat rooms, as well as turning those cameras off to be safe. I am going to play this short video. This was via online gaming that this happened. So that was through online gaming. And part of that I play because, you know, too often time we also think of predators as this specific category. I mean, he was only 4 years older than him, but he was an adult, and he had enticed him as a minor through online gaming. Oh, we're frozen. Oh, there we go.
Are we still there? Okay.
So I put this slide up here. I just want you guys to look at this slide, because oftentimes when we go into these presentations, people will say, you know, my kids are in junior high, they're in elementary, I don't need to worry about these things yet. Well, of course we do need to worry about those things. Pretty much by high school, it's kind of too late if you haven't been talking to your kids about internet and predators and social media, all of these things. We've got to start these conversations as soon as kids are picking up these devices, which is about 3 years old. If you'll notice, kids in strollers that have their parents' phone or their parents' iPad, and they know how to scroll, they know how to slide, they know all these things, they know and they understand how to use them. So we've got to start having conversations. And we'll kind of go over how those conversations go when we're talking about children versus tweens and teens. So let's just jump right into social media. Social media is a lot of today's problems with our kids. And the governor's office put out this, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but they put out, it was a social media media campaign for social media and the harms that it does to our youth. So talking about depression, talking about anxiety issues, and the levels that it goes to, and reaching suicide. It's increased dramatically. So this is a quick little, this is actually on their website as a promotional video, but I'll show you the website after. You can go and you can actually download these things to use, to show. There's all kinds of Surgeon General warnings, which are a lot of stats, as well as videos and media that you can download.
Social media shows people living their best lives. but it also hides potential harms for our children.
Epic fail. No wonder you have no friends.
Oh my gosh, I know where he lives.
He's got a punchable face.
This is so cringe.
And though they may put on a brave face, it might be masking unbearable pain.
So these are 3 of the billboards that I pulled off, but these, I've seen them along I-15, other areas, but these are some of the billboards that are used, and it has the stats on it. So it's interesting to look at these. I suggest everyone go to this website. It's a great website with a lot of information, and there was a lot of research done surrounding social media and the harms. So just a place to go and use this information. So we're going to talk a little bit about Snapchat, because I know that this is one of the more popular apps still with kids. And we're going to talk about Sarah's going to talk about some of the issues with it and why it's been big in some of our cases.
Yeah, so the point of Snapchat when it first came out was to take quick pictures and then they disappear, right? You can sext that way and you would never be caught. Well, part of the belief was that the stuff would disappear. And if we know anything about technology anymore, is nothing disappears. And there's plenty of other ways in order to save this kind of data. And so we still get a lot of reports with the teenagers doing the sexting, but we get a lot of other reports of the CSAM, like I called it, the child sex abuse material, being shared on Snapchat as well. There's also, the Snapchat is used a lot for sextortion. And these images, they don't disappear. And we'll talk about a case of mine later that kind of showed that as well, and what happened with one of our local offenders. The problem with Snapchat as well is if you turn on your Snap Maps, if your location is on, the person that's looking at it can see your location down to your house, to the house level, and maybe even the part of the house that they're in. It's that accurate. And so there's severe safety issues with Snapchat, minus the predators on there. But and we'll show, we didn't put that there's apps out there that, yeah, some sort of technology is developed and it's supposed to keep somebody from doing something, right? Like, you can't save the pictures on Snapchat because they go away. Well, somebody's going to come up with an answer to that. And so these are just examples of some apps that were developed that helps you actually save the stuff in secret. But here's the issue. Even if it's not in secret, somebody takes a screenshot and you can see they took a screenshot on Snapchat because it tells you they still have the image. Somebody has 2 phones like we do. You can take it with 2 phones. You take, a picture with one phone and on the other on the app. So the biggest things with these, and really with any social media app, is the images that are shared do not go away. It's a matter of thinking before you send it, and remembering that you have no control over it the second you hit send or upload. That's the biggest takeaway with these, and any other app where you're sending images.
So kind of jumping into this emerging technology. So we talk about, people staying up to date with apps and platforms and social media and websites and all these different things. But unfortunately, it's going to keep going. I mean, it's going to keep moving along. So emerging technology, talking about that, and we'll talk about a case, but here's kind of what happens with the emerging technology and predators. I mean, when kids are online, obviously their barriers are down. It's a whole new level of exposure for kids, this virtual reality, and the grooming happens whether it is on virtual reality or whether it's on an app. So it always is there. This is one of our cases. So Oculus, speaking of virtual reality and emerging technology, Oculus, we had the first Oculus case ever in the entire world. And it was crazy because when this happened, nobody had ever heard of there being a problem with Oculus.
Facebook didn't even know about it. Meta weren't expecting the phone call.
Yeah, and they're the ones that owned it at the time, so they were very shocked. So this kind of gives you an outline. This was actually an Amber Alert here in the state of Utah a couple of years ago. And then the crazy thing is we actually had a second Oculus case about 3 months after that, also via social media. But this kind of gives you a rundown of what happened with her. She was 12 years old, out of Roosevelt, Utah. And what you think about somebody driving, so this predator drove from Florida in his semi to Roosevelt, Utah to pick her up. So pretty aggressive means in order to get to her. And she had been talking to him via Oculus for some time and had talked to her friends about it. Her parents did all the right things. They locked down the phones, talked to her, had conversations, but they didn't think about Oculus. Oculus wasn't on the radar. And so that's where this happened. And so they contacted Roosevelt Police Department, which got involved. They were like, okay, we need help with this. This is a big one. So they contacted Uintah County, which is an affiliate of us, and then they contacted us, which we contacted Meta Facebook. So all these efforts, we were able to locate her in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It was about 3 days later, and she was in the sleeper part of this truck, and they were driving back to Florida. So when we talk about keeping up, unfortunately, it's going to keep going. I mean, we're going to have things other than, I mean, it's going to keep going. We're talking about Oculus, we're talking about virtual reality, but think about VR or AI. AI is a big one, and we're going to see a big change we've already seen a lot of AI here in our office, but as far as like sextortion cases and things like that, it's definitely going to impact kids a lot more. Personal information, just kind of I mean, we think about this and we should know this as adults, personal information, keeping everything private. But unfortunately with kids, they don't. They generally don't keep things private. They like to have open accounts for things because they want to be popular, status, all of these things that make them important. So they open up their lives with their personal information, which a predator needs very little information to get to a child, and they're opening up their lives with a lot of information. For an example, on Instagram, I have an undercover account that I go on to, and when the school year changes, I look on there, 90 to 95% of what I'm looking at. And mind you, these are open accounts. I'm a stranger, they don't know me, I'm looking at their accounts. 90 to 95% of them have taken a picture of their entire class schedule. This is junior high and high school, and posted it to see who has classes with them. Now, just for a minute, think about what is on a junior high and high school class schedule. There's a lot of personal information on there that makes it easily accessible for a predator. So really telling kids, explaining to them why personal information is so important, why we need to keep our privacy private. This is one example. So this is kind of our first line of defense when it comes to apps, social media, is privacy settings. We've got to make sure that we're setting our privacy settings as adults, and our kids are setting privacy settings. Nothing is ever 100% guaranteed, ever. But this is our first line of defense, making sure those privacy settings are set. And oftentimes there's a few apps out there that have zero privacy settings. Those are ones to steer clear of for adults and kids as well, just because when you can do things anonymously and you can't set privacy settings, that's just opening up your world. So they're very dangerous. So steer clear of those. So we're going to jump right into online predators. So when we think about online predators, looking at 1, 2, 3, or 4, this is hard to do online because usually we have like audience participation. But generally, when we put this up there, we ask, who's the online predator? You know, people vote. And generally it's number 3, always with kids, because he's the creepy guy in the basement and everybody's like, oh, it's number 3. But what we want to put this up here for is to dispel that myth. It's all these people. These are all adults that are trying to exploit a child. So in looking at that, you know, we have kids say, well, girls don't do that. Number 2 doesn't do that. Absolutely. 100% they do. Not as common as men, but in the last month, we've had 2 females, and that's a lot. I've worked here 10 years and haven't seen as many females. And I've worked here 10 years, and the last female that was arrested for this was the worst case I've ever seen in the 10 years I've worked here. So just to kind of put that in perspective, yeah, absolutely. We want kids to not think that it is always only number 3, because we want them to realize and be empowered with that knowledge that it can be any adult. And we want them to realize that. So this is kind of what I was talking about as far as talking about risks at every age. Talking about starting with young kids and what they're doing. By the time they're tweens and teens, they will be able to handle these conversations and they'll understand them. When we're having these conversations on a constant basis, it's not a one-time conversation at all. We've got to continue to have them. And as technology changes, those conversations are going to change. So making sure we are having the conversations. That's one of the most important things that I always impress when I'm doing this, is it's really important for these kids to have a safe adult that they can go to and have on our open communication with our kids. Not threatening, that doesn't work with this. Just having these open conversations is really important. And then they feel that they have that safe adult that if and when something does happen, they have them to go to before it gets too late. So I play that video because I want you to hear from the words of a predator how they go about this. I stopped it on the grooming because we will actually talk about that, but I wanted you to hear those words. And he was an educator. So again, dispelling that myth that it's just one type of person or they have this idea of who that is. It can be anybody and everybody. So we want to empower kids with that knowledge so they have that. This is just kind of a national, this varies on from state to state about predators because sometimes, I mean, sometimes, a lot of times they do lie about being an adult, but like an instances with girls don't always necessarily, they don't, because they think that it's cool to have this older guy pay attention to them. So that's a little bit of, you know, differentiation between the national and a lot. These are just some of the things. When I talked about the Amber Alert, when he did abduct her, so that is, you know, becoming more aggressive. So we're seeing a little bit more aggressive techniques when it comes to predators and what they're doing. Again, I wanted to put this up there because these are some of the things that people don't expect when we talk about these predators and internet sex offenders. So, you know, having higher degrees of formal education, being professionals, having families, kids the same age that they are exploiting. They're exposed to more deviant forms of pornography, so child sexual abuse material. Again, contacting children and teens in chat rooms, online gaming, different chat rooms, and then using webcams. I always tell people to put tape over their webcams, cover their webcams if they can when they're kids, especially when they're playing online gaming and things like that, so that these guys cannot see our children as well as into their homes. So these are some of the ways that a predator grooms. And when you were listening to him talk, you could hear all of these things in what he was saying. He utilized that flattery and attention. He made sure that they felt good. The most important one is the end one. It's that building that emotional rapport and gaining that trust, because a predator wants, their goal is to get that child out of the home for sexual contact. So once they build that emotional rapport, gain that trust, pull them away from everyone, they have them. And they're very good at what they do. So I hope you guys noticed that stat on there. 1 in 5 kids are sexually solicited online. High numbers, high numbers. So keep that in your mind when you're talking about what we can do for our kids and why we're educating our kids. We want to prevent this before it becomes something bad, before these things happen. And we want to give them that, again, that empowerment so they know what to do. Just some things we can do about these things, you know, talking to our kids about relationships, healthy, what is an appropriate adult relationship and what is not is important, because if we don't have those conversations, the predators will. They're going to make sure they have those conversations with our kids, and they're not going to tell them what we're going to tell them. So really, really talking to our kids. We'll give you the reporting options as well at the end. So sexting. So sexting, cyberbullying, and sextortion all go hand in hand. Oftentimes it starts with, say, cyberbullying or sexting. There's a picture sent, then it goes into cyberbullying, then it goes into sextortion. So really these 3 things do go hand in hand. Sexting is a very underreported crime. Kids are embarrassed, they just don't report it. So this is a really, people say that's a really low number. It is a low number because it's very underreported. But here's what we need to have these conversations about with sexting, because once that image is, once they post it, they send it, whatever they're doing. Once it leaves their hand, it's out of their control where it goes. They have no more control of where that image is going to end up or who's going to use that image. So keeping all these consequences in mind. And the most important one really, like we think about, is those emotional implications that it's having on our kids. We've seen the suicide rates go higher and higher. And so those emotional implications are huge when it comes to sexting, sextortion cases, cyberbullying cases. Just some more education on how parents can talk to their teen about sexual behaviors, physical consequences, emotional consequences, all of these things. Also talking about legal issues. I mean, this is a crime. You know, they can't send this. They're minors. They can't send it. They can't receive it. So it is a crime. And talking about the potential implications when it comes to that as well. I'm gonna go past. Okay, so this is just a little education on acronyms. So acronyms, it's hard to keep up because there's a lot of acronyms, but understand, trying to keep up a little bit, because the predators are going to talk to our kids the way that they're talking. So they know all this, they know how to do this. So this is just kind of a top 10 codes and acronyms. Here's what they mean. So seeing how you did on that. So a good place to go, a good reference to go to when you're talking about acronyms or slang is Urban Dictionary. You can find out a lot. It has a lot of slang and acronyms on there. So just kind of reading over those, or if you have questions about it, looking at those. There's a lot of resources as far as it comes with that. So then we go right into the sexting with emojis, because after people started figuring out, you know, educators, parents started kind of figuring out the acronyms a little bit, the kids wanted to move forward from that. So they started using emojis. So we were getting calls on this from educators, from administrators, saying, what is happening? Is this something new kids are using? Because there's emojis going everywhere. Well, yes. So they started using this. Again, you can Google this. Don't do it on your work computers. Don't do sexting with emojis on your work computers, but Google it to see some of the different combinations that they use. It's crazy what it says with these emojis. It's crazy. So this is something that they do use. Predators know this as well. They're going to talk that same lingo. They're going to talk that same language as kids are using. So that just kind of gives you a glimpse into what sextortion is and how the predators use this, how they use this form to exploit our children. So this is the definition of it. This is our Utah statute. The statute's had a couple changes, and Sarah's going to talk about a case of hers that was sextortion here, a local case here in Utah.
Yeah, so this was actually a cyber tip, and we'll talk a little bit more right at the end if we get a chance of what cyber tips are, but they come from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This came from Snapchat, who reported to them, who gave it to us. And in this case, Gabe, using a fake profile, was contacting girls all over Snapchat after getting their usernames from another app where kids are putting out all of their social media information and saying, come and add me. So he'd find it, he'd go message them, and then he'd start talking for a minute, and then say, hey, send me a naked picture of whatever. And they, you know, some would say no, some did actually send it, but if they said no, he'd tell them things like, if you don't, I'll just Photoshop your face onto a naked image and send that to everybody on your friends list. He also would tell girls that if you don't send it, I'll just send rapists and human traffickers to your house. And then he would send screenshots of their location, like we talked about before with the snap maps. The reason the case came forward is a girl in Texas actually reported the account. Snapchat noticed what was going on. It went through NCMEC and came to us. So I was going through that and trying to find kids that I could, you know, contact to get more victims in the case. And I actually had to use my undercover profile and try to convince these girls who I was in real life. Here's my phone number, our work address, my email, all these things. I need to talk to you about this. I only got 5 girls, 4 plus the one that originally reported, to respond to me. 2 were in New York, 1 was in Tennessee, and 1 was in Utah. I really wanted to look to see if I could find a local victim. And ultimately, what I found out is that when I went to go locate him at his house, he had left on his mission already. And he had started doing this before he left. And ultimately I was able to work it out and he was sent home. But I still never got a chance to talk to him because his mom hid him from me. So we ultimately just filed the charges based on what I knew. And ultimately he was charged with the 5 counts of aggravated sexual extortion of a child. And then the 4 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor, basically, because he told the girls to create that. That's where that comes from. Now, the way the statute was written at the time is I couldn't do anything about the stuff he did when he was 17 because it was written so that only adults could commit that crime. We had that changed. And then we've since had it changed again to include things of value based on the sextortion trends we're seeing right now. But he ended up he's in prison right now, 5 years to life, 4 or 5 counts of that. He's probably about halfway through and he'll be out and whatnot. But he was a very serious offender in Utah. So just some numbers to talk about, the sextortion has just exploded. These are, NCMEC put these out. We've gotten just, well over 200,000 of online enticement cyber tips that include the sextortion. They've just exploded. Our cyber tips from 2018 to the end of last year went up 500%. We're going to get more this year than last year. And they're doing it mostly for money. Now, the big targets right now are the boys. And what's happening, and you may have seen some of this on the news, there's been Nigerian rings, crime rings, some in the Ivory Coast and some in the Philippines. And they are literally sitting in a room, just contacting people all over the world, and especially kids. And they are pretending to be girls, pretty beautiful women, fake pictures of some beautiful woman somewhere on the internet and naked pictures. And they contact these boys. Hey, however they get them to talk to them. Yeah, do you want to trade pictures? Here's mine. A boy sees a beautiful girl. Oh my gosh, sure. She's asking, I'll send her a picture. And then by then, when we talk about the privacy settings, they've already taken screenshots of their of their friends lists. And they start with the sextortion. If you don't send me this amount of money via this Cash App, then I will send all these pictures you sent to me to all your friends. And here's a screenshot of all your friends. And the thing is, they aren't joking. They do send it. If they don't send the money or the account doesn't get shut down in time, they are sending those pictures out to friends. Some kids do. You can see in the chats, they're freaking out. I don't have that kind of money. Well, what can you give me? I don't know. Give me time. Give me time. We've had suicides because of this pressure that comes from these offenders, and that includes kids in Utah. The platforms are getting better about recognizing when the sextortion is beginning, probably because of location data and then the algorithms and reading the chats. So they're shutting them down before it gets to sextortion, but it's still including the online enticement. And right now, all we can really do, because the suspects are out of country, is just try to find these kids and do welfare checks and have educational sit downs with them and their parents, because oftentimes the parents don't know what they've been going through.
So this is a really great resource. I want you guys to all jot this down. So this is called Take It Down. It's through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Here's what it does. Here's the website. This helps kids, so minors, get their nudes offline, partially nude, sexually explicit images, videos taken down when they were under 18. And it is great. It's been pretty successful. They have a whole team at NCMEC that this is all they do. So this is actually just such a great step forward, because there isn't a lot that can help kids get all these images taken down. So take this website down. There's also an adult one as well that they have adults, help adults, but we focus on kids. So that's what this is for. But if you need the adult one, it is on NCMEC as well, the website. So I'm just going to kind of go through this fast because we are running low on time. But again, cyberbullying, here's what it is. Again, it goes with sextortion, sexting, cyberbullying. They all really go hand in hand with one another. As I said before, a lot of times it'll start with a picture, goes to cyberbullying, goes to sextortion. Some of the things kids can do, all these different things. One important thing, saving the message. So oftentimes kids will delete it. They don't want to see it. They want to get rid of it. But unfortunately, if you're not saving it, you don't have that evidence. So really making sure that we keep those. And I'll tell you some ways that it's legal versus it's hard, because people will call and say, my child's been cyberbullied. Okay, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But there are statutes that can be charged with this, and parents are as well. So I'm gonna pull that. Here are the statutes. So these are the Utah statutes, threats of violence, stalking, and electronic communication harassment. So that's why we're saying make sure they're keeping those, whether they're doing a screenshot, taking a picture of it off their phone, whatever it may be, just making sure that they keep those so that they can show what's happening to them, and they can get law enforcement involved. So we're coming to the end. I really want to impress on everyone. This is the most important thing. You know, we're sending our kids out the door with these powerful computers, these powerful machines, and we don't have control once they're walking out those doors. So it's imperative that we have these conversations with our kids, open lines of communication, non-threatening. We want them to have that safe adult. And then really paying attention to our kids, paying attention to grooming tactics. If you see your kids reacting differently, pulling away, and then taking action. And we'll give you those reporting options. This is just some of the safety tips we've talked about. A big one that I want to impress as well, educating yourself. Oftentimes, parents don't understand their kids have all these apps. They don't understand how the apps work. So by the time they do understand that, or they do find out something, it's very late in the game. So educating how our phones work, how our apps work before we're handing those to our children, really important. And setting boundaries. Kids don't unplug themselves. They don't. We have to unplug. We have to unplug them. We have to unplug ourselves as well. We have to put our phones down. We have to be that person, that parent that let's have conversations. Let's eat dinner. Let's unplug. Everybody unplug. And here's some others. So this is be aware of predator grooming. So these are some of the ways that you can look for changes in your child's behavior. Pulling away, being online constantly, being very secretive. It's very obvious when kids are talking to a predator and they're being groomed. Kids hide apps, that's another one. We've had a lot of questions about that. There are a lot of apps that are called vault apps, and there's many of them. You can Google them online to see which ones are, but they'll hide images, they'll hide videos, they can hide, if a parent says, I don't want you to have Snapchat, they can hide that so that the parent can't see it, even though they have it. So just be aware of that. And that's why, again, it's important to have open lines of communication, because they don't feel like they have to go around your back and hide things.
Yeah, so we talked about the cyber tips just really quick. The reason why cyber tips exist is because of, in the federal level, Section 230, and you may have heard of that on the political side of things, but that's what, if a platform is scrolling in their servers looking for CSAM and they find it, they are required to report it to NCMEC. That's what a cyber tip is. But you can also report yourselves as the public if you have an issue that you think qualifies as something like this, and you want to get some help with it. This is the website again, cybertipline.org. You can it's all online. If you please don't make it anonymous, it doesn't help us. We can't do anything with those. But if you have to, and it just gives us a heads up that something might be happening, I just can't say that we'll for sure be able to get to that investigation. We have to close 75% of the cyber tips we get because we don't have the manpower. That's how busy we are. So we can only get the most egregious. But when citizens report, I can tell you that I really try to get those to the agencies where we have the affiliate for that. But give us as much information as you can if you have any kind of concern that is surrounding this. And NCMEC's really good. They may even try to call back and get some information from you as well. And then we get all of that information.
One nice thing I want to mention about the cyber tip line. So if your child is say they're talking to somebody on Instagram and you only know certain information, you know their screen name or you know their email. That's what's nice about this, is because you can put this in here and you can put all the information that you have in here, and then NCMEC will determine where those locations are. So if your child is in Utah as the victim, they'll send it to us. If they find out the predator is in New York, with whatever information you provide to them, they'll send it to the ICAC in New York. And then we work together with those ICACs to make sure that we take care of those cases on both victim and predator side. So again, these are reporting options. Local law enforcement agencies, school resource officers. A lot of times high school kids really do feel more comfortable with their school resource officer. So we tell them wherever you feel comfortable, you report these. And then that is our website, UtahICAC@agutah.gov, and our tip line. Again, the cyber tip line, great resource, as well as reporting. And then a great resource I always point out is commonsensemedia.org. It's a really, really great resource. It has a lot of information for everyone. And just go to it. There's a ton. It's not just internet stuff. There's movies, there's age appropriate levels of everything. So it's a really great resource to be able to go to. So this is, I put this up at the end because this is why we do what we do, and we love to spread the message. Hopefully we can, save children this way, and that is why we are here and we do what we do. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. This is my contact information. Please contact me if you need anything, refer our resources, presentations, whatever it may be. Yeah, just contact me and we'd be glad to help with whatever we can. So thank you so much. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Michelle and Sarah, will you guys email me your PowerPoints so I can share that out with everybody?
Yeah, I'll make a PDF out of it so
Okay.
that, yeah, it's small. Yeah.
That would be great. There is one question on here that just says, what is the outreach for you guys to public schools, and what programs are implemented for middle and high school students?
As far as us, we go wherever we're invited, and we are happy to go to schools. We've been to schools. The big difference is who is our audience there. We really try to do parents and children differently, but if we're going to do, youth, it's usually parents, it's usually the older youth and the parents, because then the subject matter can get a little bit more in depth. If it's the younger kids, we're trying to just give them some of the basics. So it depends on who. If we're invited and we're available, we go. As far as programs in the schools, that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, so schools are mandated to teach this digital safety, but there's no curriculum that they have to follow, and they can kind of do it how they want. And unfortunately, what I hear happens oftentimes in schools is they just want to check that box. So they want to do like a full assembly. They want to get somebody out there fast, check the box, be done. So it's hard. It is. It's different, and it's different for different districts. Like I know Canyon's district is really good about all of this. They call us for everything, and they do a lot in their schools. So it just depends. Unfortunately, there's no across the board for curriculums or anything like that when it comes to schools, which is tough because we would like to have it consistent. And so kids are getting that message and the right messages out there.
Well, one of the things too that's hard is if we are doing it as a school and it's for the parents and the kids, sometimes we'll have one person show up. We've had one person come to a presentation before. We've had 12 when a whole auditorium is reserved. So that's why the parents need to be engaged and really active in this as well.
Yeah, I just want to go and ban all phones, all everything now after hearing this. So
And we rushed through it too. We rushed through this, so we have more info, but that's the best we could do in an hour.
that was amazing. Yeah, somebody says a whole new fear. I would agree. It is a whole new fear of everything.
Sarah, Michelle, can I ask one quick question? Could you maybe address really quickly how you would offer help or support to kids or youth who do find that they are victims of have been drawn into sexting or the sextortion, and now are concerned about getting any help or support because they're worried about the legal implications and being in trouble, so they're afraid.
Right.
That happens a lot, and we try to impress on kids, listen, you're sitting one picture, you made a mistake, you're not going to be put in jail or prison. We really do try and impress that on them. But what we want to do is stop that image from going. We want to stop that from going further and further and further. So really, again, having these conversations, because we know kids make bad decisions as well as we do. Everybody makes a mistake. But really having those conversations about the implications of those mistakes, but also letting them know you're not, you received this by accident. We're not going to prosecute a child that's, you know, scared to death. And we don't want them to be scared, and we don't want them to fear coming forward with this information.
Yeah, there's rare cases where we will hear from some of the affiliates, they've got a problem child in their jurisdiction that continues to send and they can't figure out a way to stop. That's when they may consider charges, but that is so rare. They were victimized. They were talked into doing it. They were in a weak moment. We are not about getting them in trouble. We are about helping them. And by reporting it, you actually do have access to services.
Yep.
Because they'll probably want to take you to the CJC and maybe do an interview, and that opens you up to services just by doing that. And we have victim advocates all over the place. So it is more beneficial to let us help and get that empowerment. If we're able to go catch the guy, we'd love to.
Yeah.
And especially because we have so many affiliates all over the state, and we have people reaching out to us. They know how to work these cases, and they know who to reach when they have questions about them.
Well, and we've seen, you know, kids do feel scared and they feel like they're going to get in trouble. And we tell them, you're a victim of this. This was an adult. So they're victims, and we absolutely acknowledge that. We don't want them to feel like they're, you know, going to get in trouble for that and they won't come forward.
I saw that statute of limitations question. No, they've changed sex offenses a lot with kids because they know that sometimes it can take time to disclose. So I haven't looked at the code recently. I don't believe there's anything that's even kind of close to. I think it's more when it's disclosed now is when the clock starts. However, when it comes to digital technology, there is a limit on how long we can get the evidence from these platforms if we don't have it anywhere else, or we need these platforms, these internet companies, they only keep the data for so long. And so if it's years later, we may not be able to do anything about it. Even if it's a year later, it really just depends. So as soon as it happens, put the phone down, put it away, save things, whatever, you know, support the child, and then make a report as soon as you can.
Then there's another question about, is there a statute of limitations for these crimes?
Yeah, and that's the one that I was just saying. With kids, it starts when disclosures happen, because kids can take a lot longer, especially when it's actually hands-on offenses. But that's why I say with the digital technology, there is a limit there. And so the sooner the better. Any others? Okay.
I think we're all just like petrified now.
We try to end it with a funny video too, but we had to get through it. We've got a good one for the end, but just lighten it back up. But it is heavy, but don't avoid it just because it is. That's the biggest thing. Yep.
Can I just say too, like, I know like it's adults and parents in the room, like it really is intense, but I did recommend that we bring it from Michelle and Sarah to share it, because I did see this earlier this summer, and I was with a room full of teens that they presented this to, and I just want to say it was pretty awe-inspiring to see a room full of teens receive this from Michelle and Sarah, and to see their responses to this, and I think that it's pretty cool to see the way that they respond to the information and the empowerment that it gives to them, and that as opposed to, I guess, maybe this particular type of venue, makes it a little more upbeat, because you see those kids walk out and you feel a lot more confident about their safety and what this means to be able to spread that out. And I think maybe for us, it gives us a little more if we walk out the door, and we'd be able to make sure that more kids know about this, more parents know about this. And I hope you guys get out to be able to share it with more kids, because I think that makes a huge difference.
Well, that's awesome. We appreciate hearing that. And plus we could joke around a lot more in person too and make the kids laugh. So
Yeah, sometimes we can be funny.
yeah. We appreciate this. Thank you so much for letting us do this.
Yeah, we really appreciate being invited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then with that, just because this was such a heavy topic and we are running short on time, we are going to forego the case. Gabby Castro is who is presenting the case, but I've texted her and she is going to share her case with us next month. So everybody gets about, Kurt.
Let me just ask a quick question since we got time. I didn't want to ask
Okay.
because we didn't have time. up here in Cache Valley, they have the Cache Valley Daily, which is the kind of online paper and stuff. And I read that, and it seems like it's always a 13-year-old girl. And I've asked my buddy who's been involved with the children against, or the crimes against children, and asked him, why do they always use a 13-year-old girl? Because that seems to be when they're doing their undercover work, right? They're always a 13-year-old girl that kind of lure these guys in, and then they catch them at the park or wherever they were going to meet and that kind of stuff. Is there something about a 13-year-old girl? Because I said, these guys are going to catch on. And he goes, well, you're not dealing with the sharpest tools in the shed, which is probably true. But at the same time, I was just curious if that was an age group that's really targeted, because I do have a 13-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter. And I just wondered if that's, because I would think, I mean, again, not having dealt with this, I would think it would be older minors that they would target, but it always seems to be that 13-year-old target. So just curious.
So I know that we have a lot of affiliates up in Cache County, and I know we've got some really active chatters up there, and it could just be the same guys chatting for that one. But we do actually spread it out in the ages, but we prefer under 14 because it's a more serious crime. Because yeah, with the age brackets, it's more like a Class A misdemeanor the higher in age you go, which still, but we deal in felonies, so we really go with younger than that if we can. When some chat, and I've done it where I'm an 11-year-old and a mom. Some have done it at 9. And then you're really getting into the pedophile area. It's not just predator, but also pedophile, the more serious guys. And then now with the statute, you don't actually have to talk to the child anymore to actually commit the crime. If you're arranging it through an adult, then that's enticement as well. And that's kind of come up because of work we've done as well. So some don't even chat as a child anymore. But 13 is, we really do, like, so if we do undercover ops, we really try to tell everybody, don't let everybody go down the same app and be 13-year-old girls showing up suddenly. That's not going to work. So we do try to spread out the age, but that's probably what's going on up there.
Well, that makes sense. And this is a whole different level of scary. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other questions before we let them go?
One thing that I have been thinking about since I did see you guys and talk with you guys during the summer is, when you guys see a lot of these cases and you work with a lot of these kids and these families, what are some of the maybe some of the top resources that you recommend for these families for recovery or dealing with the trauma of these experiences?
Well, if it gets to a serious enough point, I mean, therapy, I'm a big proponent. Yeah. We have to go to therapy for our work just because of what we do. So kids, if that helps them work out what it is they're feeling. And then, yeah, I mean, every kid's going to be different too. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have a victim coordinator as well, that has a lot of resources. So we can definitely get her involved and her team involved, that has all the resources for youth, for adults. And we know, and I actually did a brochure on this. We know that the families of these are they consider them secondary victims. So there wasn't a lot out there for them. So we've created this brochure that has all this information. I can send you that. I have it as a PDF. But it has information on how they can get services and resources as well. So that's a good thing. But yeah, our victim services has a ton of resources.
Yeah, that would be great if you would send it. We'll share it out as a resource for everybody.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Have you prepared materials or had sessions for groups, parents, and then the young people, and the young people have some developmental delays or developmental variation or neurodiversity?
We haven't done anything specific with that. Ours is kind of just the overall population.
Yeah.
The kids.
I just wanted to say that Michelle and Sarah, you guys are pretty much heroes in my eyes.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And our next session is in December, and that's where Gabby will present her case presentation to us. as well as on the topic. We appreciate Michelle and Sarah joining us today and sharing that all with us. If everybody will take a minute to complete the survey, and as soon as I get their PowerPoint and resources, I'll shoot it out to everybody. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go and talk to your kids about social media and the impacts of it.
Is it too late to ask a quick question, ladies?
No, go right ahead.
How can we support you?
Legislature?
Okay,
Tougher sentences.
Tougher
would be great.
sentences? Yeah.
okay.
And just talking about it. I mean, getting the word out there, getting the messages out there, getting the education out there is so important. It really is. And the thing is, we'll go wherever we're invited. So getting that word out there so we can get that message out there.
Okay. Well, I work for Kids on the Move in Utah County, and I am just blown away. Like, I knew a lot of this was happening. We have a friend named Kyle who does what I think Sarah does.
Oh,
You guys know Kyle?
He's in our secure task force.
Yeah.
So he does the trafficking side, but yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing, and he keeps us in the loop a little as much as he can, but I'm just so grateful for you guys. I'm seriously emotional. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
I'll give
you.
one last thing that I just remembered that I thought of. There's an author out there that's written a lot about what's going on with our kids right now. It's Jonathan Haidt. It's Haidt. He has
Okay.
two books that are very good. The Coddling of the American Mind and The Anxious Generation. I would probably start with The Anxious Generation because that's what's talking about with our kids right now and why, or the spikes in depression, and anxiety and
Oh
all.
my gosh. Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a lot of science behind it now. I would recommend those books.
Okay. The Anxious Brain,
The Anxious
And-
Generation,
The Anxious Generation, and the other one was what?
The Coddling of the American Mind.
Okay, I'm gonna go get them right now. Thank you so much. God
Thank
bless you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.